Bum 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 bum. Just chat with Uncle Dominic.
Let's chat with Uncle Dominic. Today we have a very special guest, Jerry Zer. He is from Indiana. All right, so let's welcome him.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to
So,
be with you.
a little bit about Jerry. Let me read about his info here. Okay, Jerry Zer. He is an ordained minister, and supposedly he has served as a pastor and a leader in interfaith ministries for over 30 years. Wow, 30 years. Look at that. And he has created not only one but four, I believe, four interfaith organizations. And the big ones are Carmel Interfaith Alliance and the Indiana Multi Faith Network. I mean, wow, wow. And more personal stuff. He has been married for 37 years, and but wow, so 37 years. That's about almost three, like, my lifetime, I guess. Yeah. So he has a lot of experience. Let's welcome him and let's learn more about him. And today's topic is building bridges and not burning them. Okay. So Jerry, would you like to introduce yourself more?
Well, thank you. Yes, it's good to be with you and your listeners. Um, I think, as you've explained, my passion has been how we can find ways of finding that which is in common than what divides us. It seems right now, at least in my country, things are very polarized. People are angry. People don't really want to listen to one another, and there's really just a sense of vitriolity that we haven't seen for a long time. I don't know if it's that way in your country or not.
Right now in Taiwan, I think it's a bit different. Like people are more, how do we say, more respectful, I guess, in respectful of each other's faith. Well, there's not really much faith here. I mean, the Buddhism is the main thing here, and but there are Christianity. There is the Muslims as well. There's other small faiths. I mean, we don't step on each other, so that's one. We
Right.
respect each other, and so because the majority of it is Buddhism, so Buddhism teaches like harmony, stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think in your country, I think that does come across. In many of my friends in India, the same way. In the United States, we have a lot of competition, and there's a lot of I'm better than you. To be successful, there's a if being successful means I have more than you do. I'm at the top of the heap, and so my beliefs must be right, which means you must be wrong. And that's not always true. And I disagree with that, but that's the mindset that we have. It's somehow um, we have a lot of times people who think my point of view is right, and so you have to learn and agree with me. And if you don't, then you're not really a valued person.
Right. I would say that mindset not just only apply to Americans, but I would say it applies to all humans, like mainly generally men in general, because we were born sort of thinking that we're alpha male, and then we have this power, so we're dominant. We want to be more powerful. I mean, so in this case, everyone builds success on saying, yes, I have to step on another person. I have to get up to the top, like you said. And yeah, so people are stepping, even in Taiwan as well, and countries around me, people are doing that. But of course,
Yes.
we need to change the mindset, people's mindset, right?
Well, and I think that is a very kind of a spiritual understanding that shifts away from competition to a sense of respect and value, and finding that which is which unites us. It's interesting, as you said, I've been married for 37 years, but I must admit, when I got married, I was 30 years old. I'd been single in my 20s. So when I got married, I had pretty set in my own ways. My wife had two children, and she had been married before. But when we got married, it was kind of like my point of view is right, and even though I wanted a independent woman, I didn't want her to be too independent to disagree with me. And when she disagreed with me, I didn't like it, and I was very good in debate, so I would argue and try to prove my point. And sometimes what I found was I might win the battle, but I lost the war or the relationship, and the relationship hurt from it. And that began my own sense of realizing, as after about 5 years of trying to change my wife, I realized I can only change myself. I can't change somebody
Yes,
else.
definitely. We have to. We cannot impose our own beliefs on someone. Instead, we can change how we see things and perceive things. Right. And
And
there's
and
always a
I
saying. Sorry. There's always a
no, go
saying that
ahead.
says, a happy wife is a happy family, right? And so,
Well, although I mean, I don't think that's always, you should acquiesce to your own personhood, but more, I think it was about, I realized there was more than one point of view. There was
for
more
sure,
than one way to
definitely.
resolve an issue. It wasn't just my way to resolve it. And I think that's true when we come into relationship with other people.
Hmm.
You have somebody who's, as a boss, is very authoritarian, somebody who just isn't open to suggestions, or a really great leader, somebody who's good, is somebody who hears other points of views
Hmm.
and then has conversation and is willing to change their mindset. And that to me is a very spiritual principle about being open to that beyond us, so we aren't so set in our own ways that we aren't open to a new understanding, um, whether you call God or higher power or consciousness. There's something beyond us that we connect with inside, and I say it's the divine within and beyond us, but that helps us to see beyond ourselves.
Definitely, there's definitely something more. Like during the summer, I like to take my family to the ocean, and when we go to the ocean, we sit down and relax, and we kind of, you know, envision everything that we are just a small part of a bigger things. There's bigger things way bigger than us, and sometimes we feel like the problems are there, our problems are there, but when we go to the ocean, to the beach, and we see all this, it's like yes, it's nothing compared to what's out there. I mean, the world is bigger, right? So there's definitely more things out there for us to venture. I mean, Taiwan is a small country, right? So if there are people who have never left Taiwan in their whole life, their ideas and everything is conflicted into condensed into one small part. I mean, there's no way to look out. So I know. And by looking at your blog as well, I was like interfaith, that you have different faith things going on, right? And so most people in Taiwan believes only in, I guess I would say, Buddhism or Maju, or just a certain set of faith. But you are trying to share to everyone, like there are different views, right? And how
Well,
do you do that?
yeah, well, a part of what I found was because I grew up as a Christian, and so I just knew the teachings of Jesus. But once I started traveling the world, being in India and then studying Buddhism and Hinduism, I found that there's similar teachings. They weren't exactly the same, but there were similar teachings in all of our major religions. Now, the power of that is, in fact, that you see, I mean, people 1,000 years before Jesus were saying some of the same principles in a different culture. Buddha and the Hindu scriptures, and then Judaism by high scriptures, the Quran. And so what I've done is I've taken 6 themes that are in all of our major religions, and I've tried to unpack those, writing reflections, and then having scriptures from all of those world religions that people can read. So if somebody grows up from a Buddhist tradition and they go, I didn't know that Jesus spoke about what we call karma. Jesus said, you reap what you sow. That's the same principle as karma. What you put out there, what you sow, you will reap. And that to me is a universal principle, a universal law, if you will, that what we if we put out there love and joy and generosity, that will come back to us. If we put out there greed and bitterness and anger, that will also come back to us. And so that whole ripple effect and cause and effect is in all of our major religions, but many people aren't aware of that. So my hope is by reading my book, it helps you to expand your own consciousness as it expanded my consciousness, and my appreciation for people of other faiths and other cultures.
Right, for sure. Yes. So let's start with this thing. So I have a quote right here. It's the same thing that I just mentioned earlier. So um, I put it on the screen here. You won't be able to see it, but I'll read it out to you. It's called "Build bridges, don't burn them." And so this is our topic today: not burning them. But what does it mean by building bridges?
Well, I think the building bridges is finding that which we have in common more than what divides us. I can always tell you the things that I disagree with people who are Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist, and I can say, this is what I think. But rather than do that, let us find that which we have in common. Now, the reality is, in the Christian tradition, we have many different points of view,
Mm.
many different denominations. And so you have some people who don't want to build bridges. They want to say, I've got the truth, and this is the way it is, and you need to follow me. And there isn't really a respect. And some people want to burn bridges because they're feeling like, oh, those people who are Hindu are godless people, or those people who are Muslim, maybe they had a bad experience, or maybe they saw ISIS and they saw the ISIS killing many people in the name of Mohammed. Well, what we realize is the ISIS were only 10,000 Muslims. There was 1.2 billion Muslims in the world. But because of the media seeing ISIS killing people, people thought all Muslims were terrorists, when in fact ISIS killed more Muslims than they did even Christians. It's the same way that in some countries where Buddhism maybe isn't the majority religion, and maybe they've seen where people who are Muslim killed Buddhists or did something to persecute them. But we have to realize those were individuals who used their religion to burn bridges, if you will, rather than build each other up. But I always say, don't blame God for our own sinfulness, our own mean and ignorance, because when at the very essence of religion is love, the very essence of all the teachings of the great teachers, they are to help us be better and live a fuller life in harmony and in peace.
Right. I totally agree with that. Like, there's always a small eccentric of people that create something bad, and the whole world is justified, and everyone's just noticing just that one small group, and that's the definition of the religion or of a race or anything at all. And it just fuels anger, I mean, right? So that is kind of bad. Um, Regarding about bridges as well, they are saying that sometimes it is better to burn them and then build a new one after that.
What do you mean? Say more about that. Why would it be better to burn a bridge? Can you give me an example?
People will say, like, well, there's an example. Okay, so an example. Let me get it right. So there is an existing bridge. I mean, that bridge could be a bad bridge, and so it's better to burn it instead of rebuilding it, instead of fixing it. So it's better to destroy it and then build a new one, and it's better.
And there might be some times when you're in a bad relationship, you're in an abusive relationship, and you need to disengage from that relationship. So there might be some value, actually, in times as we care for ourselves to disengage, and if that way, it's to break that bridge. And in fact, I have a good friend who, when she got divorced, I mean, her ex-husband just kept on hounding her and harassing her, and she had to really put some strong boundaries to be separate from him. And so I think in some ways there might be that opportunity to let go, or to, as you say, to let some bridges be broken down so we can build new relationships or
Right.
build bridges. I think the key to building bridges, though, is, as it is in marriage, it is trying to listen and understand another, and part of that is difficult when we're in competition, or we think that we need, and you said men are a lot like this, the alpha male, and I've got to prove my value, and so I'm going to prove my dominance, when in reality that's very insecure, because if I really know who I am as a person, and I'm grounded and trust myself, I'm not threatened by another person. And I can actually make space for them, even though they disagree with me, even though they maybe have a totally different point of view. I can make space and at the table, and we can find some things that we can do together. And that, I think, can bring a wonderful peace. But that doesn't always happen because there are many people who don't like change, people who are afraid and fearful. We're seeing that in some countries. Actually, there's a country that is predominantly Buddhist, and they are
China?
gathering. Well, but also no, this is in Indonesia where they are the dominant religion, but they're threatened by the Muslims who are there, and
Right.
so they're moving to some ways of violence, which is so contradictory towards Buddhist teachings. But they're justifying it, saying we need to preserve our religion, and we don't want other people to come in here and take us away. And when you do that out of fear, all that will do is destroy oneself and destroy ourselves, I think.
Well, if you look at history as well, like the history in the world, like a lot of things happened that way in the beginning. Especially like if we look at America during the what do we say, the American Indians, right? The
Yes.
Indians ancestries, and so uh, things happened to their territory, like well, the English or the Americans. I don't know what do we call them, the
The British.
the British, right?
came
So they
in.
arrived there, and then they took over the property, the area, right? And then
Yes.
people are making amends of it right now, like trying to give back stuff, the land and everything. But if we look at the history, like hundreds of years have already happened, and people have already suffered, right? I'm not just saying about America. I mean, this happens in Taiwan as well, in Malaysia as well, in Singapore, and every other country in the world. It happens. But how do we, this sounds like we're destroying the bridges. We're burning all of them, and we're rebuilding it to a new civilized world. That's what the word they used before. Civilized. Let's civilize these people. And so, in this case, in this modern world right now, everyone's being civilized. Everyone there's a civilization everywhere, but people are still saying you are uncivilized. We need to civilize you, and so you
Right.
can see this happening right now in other countries. Like it's happening. So what can we say or what can we do?
Well, and I think it comes to that point of view of learning to see the value of that person as a human being, not to blank, to if I say all Buddhists are a certain way, or all people from Taiwan are a certain way, you don't do justice to the individual, and I can't fix all the problems of the world. All I can do is do change myself and interact with people. And I encourage your listeners, how can they interact with people at work or where they are to build bridges and bring some healing? The ripple effect has a wonderful positive thing that happens. I'll give you an example. So there was a synagogue here in our city,
Right.
and there was these two 18 and 19-year-old who had swastikas and Confederate flags in their house. And they went to the synagogue and spray painted swastikas all over the synagogue, trying to put fear in them and saying, you need to know your place. We don't want you here. Well, that happened on a Thursday night. And just from social media and our spreading the word, on a Monday night at 7 p.m. Now, most people work all day long. They don't want to go out at nighttime. It's dark outside. And that synagogue had only 450 seats in that temple. There was almost 1,000 people who showed up. From our community, that isn't a large community, 1,000 people. Not everybody could even fit in the synagogue. And people with their children, one of their children just say, we stand for love, not hate. And the ripple effect of that experience and that Monday night has had great impact in our community and in other communities, because people are now standing up and saying, we stand for love, and we will not let prejudice and hatred stand in its way. And it's had a wonderful positive effect in our community.
So would you say that that's a blessing as well? Because if that thing never happens, if that 17 and 18-year-old never do that, you would not get a united community.
Well, I think always, as I say, you turn your scars into stars. You take the
Right.
things
I like
of
that.
difficult
Yes.
things, and you find ways of doing it. I always wanted to go because the 19-year-old boy, of course, they had cameras on the synagogue. They caught them. It was a hate crime because he did this. He was 19, so he's tried as an adult. He went to federal prison for 5 years. His life was ruined. And I really wanted to go to him and say, would you still have done that if you saw all the things that have happened to you and all the good things that came out of that? Now, maybe he was a hard, crusted person, but I don't think at 19 he's that crusted now. And I bet you he would have said, that was kind of stupid. And I really see that it didn't do good. I mean, I've seen people change who were KKK members, who are white supremacists, and because they got in a relationship with somebody who was black and their neighbor, and they started to break down those walls because they started to see that person as a human being. And that's the value, when we can not say people are all a certain category, but we see them as a human being and relate to them. Then the ways of bridges and some of those things of our past can be let go or burned down, and new bridges of understanding and peace can happen.
Yes. I feel like the young people there. Well, it's well. I want to say that the young people nowadays they tend to do things like we're saying swastika and stuff. Like we see this happening in Taiwan as well. And these young people they do not actually know the history of, the Nazis and all these things that happened in the world. For one, they weren't taught that, but they see this in movies or video games, so they would think that this is cool. I mean, it's cool to do this. I mean, I just saw the other day on a motorcycle helmet. There's a guy had a picture of a Hitler on the back of his helmet, and Hitler is smoking. I mean, okay, that's a cool picture, but that's kind of bad as well.
Well, and I think, that's why I wrote this book, because hopefully, this is not a book of theology. It's a very accessible, it's 40 days. Each day has a reflection and then scriptures from all of the faith traditions, and then some question to think about, and then a prayer from a faith leader. And even if somebody who's not really religious, I think they can find a lot of benefit from this, because the 6 principles are universal laws, like they used about karma, or about loving yourself, the power of prayer, and a quest for peace, and how we can have forgiveness. Forgiveness is very hard, but I really try to help people explore about how to forgive others and forgive themselves, because until you can find forgiveness for being wronged, or when you've wronged somebody else, or maybe you've messed up, and to forgive yourself, you will not find inner peace. And I, again, part of my thing is I'm trying to find my way of changing, growing in myself. And I think, your listeners are people clearly who are enjoying wanting to improve themselves. They're open and growing to that. So they're already on the way. Many times it's people who don't want to grow. They don't want to change. They don't want to be open to somebody else's ideas. And that's when I think people really miss out on the richness of our life and the
Right.
abundance of life.
Well, technically, all of us, we're searching for happiness, one way or another. We want to be happy. So everyone find their own happiness in lots of ways, like playing games as well as one. I'm gonna be happy if I play games. I'll read books. It makes me happy. I go to church. It makes me happy. So whatever makes us happy, people tend to go look for it. And I'm happy that there are viewers who come to my page and are looking at us right now or viewing us right now. So it means that they want to change. They are looking for something to help them in their life, and I'm very happy, because you should be as well, Jerry, because whatever you're saying today is helping people out there.
Well, and what I found is, and again, I've had to learn this the hard way, because in my 20s, I went in the entertainment business, and I'm out in Los Angeles. I'm performing in
Right, you're an
theaters.
actor as well.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I thought, getting the accolades of other people, getting that affirmation, But in reality, I was very empty inside because I was always needing other people's approval, and so if if maybe some people liked it, but somebody criticized me, I'd focus on that criticism. I didn't have a sense of my own self worth and identity. And what I found was fame is fleeting. It comes and goes. Money comes and goes. And it really is the things of the internal that are long lasting. And so I left the theater and began my own spiritual journey of looking inward. And that's what I want to encourage people to say, you know, a lot of times we want to find happiness, but because of things in our past that we still hold on to. Maybe we've been wounded, we've been hurt, we have anger, or we have self doubt. Those things of our past still carry us, and it's like baggage that we can't let go of, and it stops us from finding our inner happiness. And that's part of the spiritual growth that we have to work on to find some inner peace.
So we can all read this in your book as well, right, Jerry?
Yes.
All right.
That's
So
all
to our
the-
viewers
the
out there,
focus.
this is a picture of his book, The Peacemaker's Path. Right? Is that the one? That's the new one, right?
Yes,
That's what.
that's right.
And it will be out. It's actually out today, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It was out yesterday, and
Do you have a copy with you right now?
Paper. I do. Here you go. So
Excellent.
there-
Nice.
yeah,
To
yeah,
everyone
yeah,
out there,
yeah.
go to his website. I put it down there on this link right there, so you can go there, Jerry Zer, and order your book.
Yeah, or you can go to my website, thejerryzer.com, and I have some of my other interviews and blogs and things I've written. But what I really want for your listeners, because they're listening today and they're wanting, I think, to find some sense of fulfillment in their life, some sense of feeling that. And you have to begin with finding that sense of the divine, of love within yourself. God, we are all made in the image of God, and it's good. God is spirit. God is within us and around us in all things. As you were in the ocean, you were out there and you could feel the energy, the presence of God's love. And when we can focus on that love and find that love for ourselves and give it to others, we will certainly be blessed and enhanced.
Definitely, I feel that as well, because I'm a Christian as well. But I do have some friends who are non-believers, and at times they feel like, what's the point of having God around us? I mean, you see all the bad things that happen. I mean, I'm happy with my life right now, and I look at their life. I'm like, yes, they're happy with their life. So some people will say, if I'm happy with my life, I found fulfillment. Why should I need God in the first place?
Well, and I think the idea of it's not needing God, but it's awakening to a richer fulfillment. Yes, I was happy in my life, but in some levels, but I became greater. It's kind of like I eat certain foods. If I just ate Chinese food all the time and then I never ate any other foods, but when I started eating other foods, Mexican and foods from curry from India and other foods, now my palate, my whole experience is enhanced, right?
Definitely.
So, I mean, I don't want people to feel like I have friends who are agnostic, and I'll say, "What does that mean to be agnostic?" And they say, "I don't know what's out there." And I go, "Well, I'm agnostic too. Then maybe I don't know what's out there. I mean, I have a faith, I believe, but I can't prove it." And even Jesus was about finding the kingdom of God at hand. Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within your midst. He wanted people to focus on the present, today, not worry so much about the hereafter, but, enjoy and find that fulfillment. And so, people who maybe find happiness right now, more power to you. If you're happy, you are really living out the principles of all the great teachers.
For sure.
Generosity, compassion, and so you don't have to be a spiritual to live those out, but we sometimes use language to identify certain things that way.
I feel like some people are satisfied with their life, but I always tell because I'm an educator in Taiwan, I'm a teacher, right? So I tell my students, you're happy with your life right now. There's no problems in your life, but definitely you want to get more things, more information. In the same way, build more bridges, more connections to people. One day you'll be using those bridges, and one day you'll be using those connections it will help you to propel yourself to, I don't know, better life, better than what you have now. And I always tell my students in high school and colleges that they always need to get themselves a business card. A business card will introduce yourself and give it to people. And I have students who tell me, "What's the point, teacher? What's the point?" I mean, they will take your card and throw it away. I'm like, so what? I told them, you give it to them. They take it. If they throw it away, it might be on the floor. Someone else might pick it up. You might build something along the way, a small bridge, a big bridge, who knows? Maybe a small boat, you know? There's some connections to anything in life. And so getting more things, like you said, different food. Like, I'm satisfied with Chinese food all my life. I mean, I'm satisfied. But occasionally, if I eat a steak or spaghetti, I'm like, yeah, you know, it builds you up. Yeah, that's it, you know. If I'm eating only Chinese food, I would not be able to, have like ice cream from Haagen-Dazs or, all those tasty stuff elsewhere in the world. And at the same time, I would not be experiencing things and finding what's good or bad in life.
And yeah, and I think, my life has been so enhanced, a lot of our conversations with, here you are in Taiwan and I'm here in the United States. When I've traveled to other countries, or I got to know people who are of different cultures and faiths, I mean, it enhanced and broadened my mind. Yes, there are some people who are working at a fast food place and they're content, okay. And maybe if you're content and that's all you want in life, but my hunch is most people really enjoy, and once they take a step in a new way, they'll find out that in fact the world is so rich. And some people, they don't like change, and they're satisfied maybe living at home and never getting out on their own, and okay. I mean, each of us has to find our own journey. I'm not here to say that I have all the truth. Each of us has to find their own way. I'm just offering that this has been a richness for me. And I invite people. I wrote the book. I mean, I didn't know if anybody else would ever read the book. I mean, I'm writing the book because I wanted to do it for me. And if other people can benefit from it, that's wonderful. And that's
it. The same thing I tell myself sometimes when I start a Just Chat with Uncle Dominic. I mean, are there gonna be viewers out there? Are people gonna watch me? At first, it's like kind of, disheartening. It's like, no one's watching me. Oh no! But my friend told me that he's watching us right now. He's telling me, you want to do it. You're happy doing it. Just do it. Why do you need to seek approval from people? So I learned that, and I put it into my heart and feel like, yes, technically, if I feel I'm happy doing this and it makes me happy, it changes my life, it changes my thinking, more positivity, and why should I need to seek approval? I should just do it. And if I keep doing it, good things will happen, right? So reap what you sow, like you said earlier from the Bible. And so I'm doing good. Eventually, good things or more blessings will happen. I don't know when.
Oh.
I won't seek for it, but I do know one day it will come and it will happen. And my life and my family's life will be better. And so that's how I feel.
And there's sometimes you see people who are scam artists, or people who are, greedy, taking advantage of people, and they look like they're getting ahead. But, part of it is we don't know their whole journey. Now, at 66 years old, I've seen those people, and I've seen how their lives end up. In fact, there was just a book came out. He was the most famous counterfeiter in the world. His daughter just wrote a book about him. And when he was a counterfeiter for money, and sometimes he had a lot of money, and it looked like he was partying and doing all this stuff. But as she talked about it, the reality was he was always on the run from the police. Sometimes he was broke. He never had a sense of relationship with his family because he was always having to go. And at the end of his life, there was nothing, nobody. He was empty. And so it's sometimes it's hard when we're younger to say, oh, why do I live a life of goodness and compassion and caring when I see people who are greedy and mean seem like they're getting ahead. Well, you don't do it just to get ahead. You do it because it gives meaning and blessing to my life.
Definitely.
And that's part of the spiritual principle that is in all of our great teachers, that actually helps me feel like there is a God. Because you have somebody from Hinduism in India that was thousands of years before Jesus, and you have the Quran, where Muhammad after Jesus, and Baha'i scriptures. And in all of these scriptures from different cultures and times, they come with some of the same universal laws. And they didn't even know each other. They didn't read each other. There was no connection. And so when you have that type of synchronicity, it says to me there is a universal consciousness that is drawing us to one another and to the divine within.
Yes, I like that. Like, if there is something good, we need to seek for it. Like, there's something good, it helps us. What? It's there. Why do we not take it? It's given to us. The knowledge is there. I mean, if we get it in, we input it into our head, we benefit a lot from it. I mean, of course, there's going to be bad things, but avoid those bad things. You learn the bad things, right?
Yeah, and I think, some people in their jobs, maybe the job isn't the most meaningful. It's, maybe they're working at a retail or they're working as a factory job, but you can find meaning in the relationships with people you're a part of, or something beyond your job. I tell people, your job doesn't define you. It maybe generates money for you, but find that which is of your passion. So like for you, it's doing a podcast is your passion. For me, it was doing interfaith ministry. Even though my job was a minister in a church and I got satisfaction from that, my real passion was doing interfaith. And so I tell people, find something you're passionate about and give yourself to that, because that will give you joy and make you get excited to wake up in the morning. Maybe you have a passion to work with, children who've been abused, or you have a passion to write or paint or bring beauty in some way that shares something good in the world. When you share something that benefits the world and others, it just makes your life so much richer.
Yes. What also, there's so much input going on. I'm trying to find what should I say in that. I mean, I like that a lot. I tell my students as well sometimes. Because I usually before this COVID-19 thing, I usually go to the big city area and to go for teachers training. I've been to a lot of teachers training, because I'm an educator, right? So go to a teachers training,
Yeah.
and so there are many teachers there, many lectures that I have to listen to, but I can say for sure there's only one or two that's great lectures. But I do go to every single one of them that I can go to. And what did I learn from that? I told my students that I learned not to do this, not to do that. I mean, oh, this is good. Take
Right.
this. And then
Right.
I built my life on that, or built my teaching career on that. And eventually I can be a better teacher, or I can be a better person. So I guess in this relationship, I don't think like any job's a minority. I mean, every job is there for a reason. Like we all work together somehow. It's just that, like you said, there is meaning. We just have to find meaning in it and enrich our lives as well. And there's
Yeah,
one thing
and
I
I-
want to say on that
Go.
earlier. Sorry.
No.
We came to this world empty-handed. Like we came in
Yes.
naked as a baby, and so we'll leave this world again empty-handed. We cannot carry any physical things with us, like our sports cars, my Spider-Man jacket, whatever I have that I love so much. I cannot carry that. And for sure, I know we can carry our knowledge with us if we go to heaven or go to another life, and we have all this that we have accumulated in this life. So I feel like I tell my kids as well, I tell my friends or my family that money is important, but knowledge is important as well, and family is important. Everything is important. It's just we need to find out the balance in it. I mean, we should not
Well,
prioritize on money, right? So
but and you know, you went into teaching. You're not going to make a lot of money as a teacher,
no,
but
no.
but my hunch is you find a really fulfillment of helping others and feeling like you're making a difference in somebody's life.
Definitely. When my
And
students come
that
to me and says,
Mhm.
Dominic, thank you so much for teaching. You're a great teacher. I'm like, yeah. And I remember there's one student. I don't know if she's on right now or he is on right now, but or he she are watching this. I told my students I love flowers. I wish students would give me flowers, even though I'm a guy teacher. But I love flowers, and I told them I love pink. And then during the last day of my teaching in that school, she came to me and gave me these flowers. Like, I mean, tears came down my eyes. She said, "I remember you
Yes.
said it. It's pink." I was like, "No," you know. So things like that, you know, that's my how do we say? It makes me as an educator like, yes, finally someone is listening to me, you know. And so
Well,
eventually,
and
yeah.
yeah, and part of it is you found a way of getting meaning, satisfaction in life, and which is a universal principle is the more we give of ourselves, the more we will get back. And so, you know, as I say, that principle, maybe people are in a factory job where and they're not like making a difference in somebody's life and they're just doing that factory job, but that's okay because they can make a difference and be a light of love and goodness to somebody who's they're working with or to people in their family or you know to find that passion outside of their job and that's really what you know when people say I'm happy, that's good, but my hunch is if they're happy they're finding some sense of fulfillment, they're finding some sense of feeding of their soul, and that's what I found when I was in the entertainment business. It, all my relationships were transactional. It's only what can I do to get ahead, and then when I left, it was like those people weren't really friends because if they couldn't do something, if I couldn't do something for them, then they wrote me off. You know, true friendship is much deeper than what you can do for one another, but that takes time, and those relationships are so wonderful, and I feel so blessed, you know,
Everything
in
takes
my
time.
life.
Like building bridges takes a few days, like a few months as well. And so that is important. That's why people don't say, okay, let's build I don't know, build a Lego tower, a Lego bridge. So the phrase is build bridges, and it takes time. It's not like instant. So definitely.
Yes.
So we need to put an effort. Everyone needs to put an effort, and then like building bridges is also another saying that we need to work together because not one man can build a bridge by himself. I mean, if it's a small, tiny bridge, put a log there, but we need.
But especially in relationships in life, you know, how do we build bridges in life? And especially if we want to bring some sense of healing and unity and peace in our world, then and those are some of the themes that, as I said, I make reference and I speak about and help people to look at, whether it's talking about learning patience, learning about acceptance of ourself, learning how to not be anxious and fearful, and you know those are some of the things that we all have dealt with in our life. It's just that I you know I was that way early on. I was very driven, I was very anxious, I was never happy with anything, um, and it's taken me some time, but that's why at 66 I've you know it's been a process of effort. So now I'm at the place where I think I can share some of that, and hopefully other people can gain something so they don't have to maybe have such a difficult time on the journey.
You just told everyone you're 66. The whole world knows now.
I'm okay. I listen. I'm happiest now than I've ever been. I've found each generation as I've gotten older, I'm happier. I think it's because I've always been open, wanting to grow, wanting to learn, and willing to change. And one of the things I really learned the most later in life was to give myself some grace. I was very hard on myself earlier on. I was never happy. And so when somebody would give me a compliment, I'd go, oh, no, that's fine. But I really wouldn't believe it. You know, I didn't feel like I was really doing enough because I was a perfectionist. And as I realized later in life, we do the best we can. And we need to give ourselves some sense of grace and forgiveness and care. And when we can do that, we can start to enjoy life and enjoy others and not be so driven that we miss out on the moments of the day.
Could you define the word grace as well? Because grace could be so many meanings. Like, how can we
Well,
give ourselves grace?
okay, grace to me is loving ourselves, is giving ourselves love, even when maybe we feel we don't deserve it. Grace is cutting some slack. Okay, cut yourself some slack. Don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah, thank you, because that word is maybe not a word that a lot of people know. And when we give that to other people, when we cut them some slack, when we give them, as I said before, sometimes we're easier at forgiving others than we are ourselves. Sometimes we have a hard time forgiving ourselves for the things we've done in our past. And that's part of really coming to a spiritual awakening and really coming to any of the great teachers and shamans or gurus will have that sense of inner peace, that they feel that they are one with themselves and the world. But that's hard. That's not easy to do because we're in a materialistic world where we have to go
Yes.
and be and work. And so we lose our focus. That's why meditation is so important. Uh, Many forms of prayer that connects us to ourself. And I love meditation. I think it's very healthy. Yoga, those different things, because when we stay connected to ourselves, then when somebody gets mad at us or yells at us, we don't have to get defensive. Like I used to get defensive when that person said, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." And I go, "Yes, I do. What do you mean?" And now I'm like, okay, that's more about their issue than mine. And one of the things I've learned is don't take things personally.
Hmm.
When somebody's upset or angry, it says more about what's going on in them than it's about me. Now, I might take and listen to if I can hear what they're suggesting, even though if they're angry or yelling at me, or somebody's driving along and they cut you off in traffic, rather than get mad at them and go cut them off, try to don't take it personally. It's something going on in them. And maybe they're dealing with a lot of difficult things and they're just lashing out. And so when you can separate yourself and not take things personally, it helps you stay focused with yourself and not give up your power to other individuals.
Right, so that we can, if once actually, yeah, that's right. Whenever we get angry or something, we should actually try to calm ourselves down. Don't take things personally, and actually, be able to see in a broader perspective, like what's going on. Why did they do this? Especially for as a parent as well. I have 3 kids, and so sometimes when my kids do this, I have to try to understand. I cannot be authoritative all the time. I have to actually try to understand why they are doing it, and if there's a reason why they're doing it, then is there a way I can accommodate them, can make them better, learn better? I don't know. So this is one way that I should educate my children as well, and also educate my students when there are problems in their life, and I have to actually put myself in a way that I can see things in a biased way, but at the same time a better way that I can, instead of putting anger out there. I mean, as a
Yeah.
guy, as a man, like most guys get angry really fast. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a thing, but there's definitely ways I can improve myself instead of immediately burn the bridges, immediately attack them. But I can, observe, like you said. I don't do yoga. I'm too big to do yoga. So, but meditating, that's one thing I could do. Things like that. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's a good example because with your children, you could do the authoritarian, hey, it's my way or the highway, just shut up and do it. Well, all that does is suppress them and make them angry.
Yeah.
And that happens right now in the United States. Nobody wants to listen to one another, and they say just you're wrong. So we have the extreme groups, and they don't want to listen to another. Well, that just makes everybody angry. And when, like you do with your children, when you try to understand them, maybe they're in a bad mood. Maybe they're frustrated, and so they strike out in some way. And you can help them hear what's underneath their pain, and try to help them feel valued and loved, and then try to give them an alternative to how to respond to that. That's the best gift you can give somebody, is really when you listen to them and feel valued. Most parents don't listen very much to their kids. And a lot of kids feel like my parents don't understand me, because as parents, we just want to tell them rather than listening, what's your fear to your child? What's the difficult things you're dealing with in your life? And the child goes, wow, you really want to know what's difficult in my life? Rather than just tell me to clean up and do my dishes and, behave myself. Well, that's the same thing as we ask our friend, a coworker. When you're with somebody who you're a coworker, and maybe that person's irritating you and they bug you. Well, if you can find something to find commonality, maybe you give them a compliment. Maybe you find some way to connect with them in a good way that softens them. Oh, and now you start to build a relationship. I love the story of Gandhi and Winston Churchill. Gandhi hated cigar smoke. Okay, he hated it. And Winston Churchill smoked cigars, and he'd blow the smoke in everybody's face. Well, Gandhi was sitting with Winston Churchill, and rather than get upset and go like, that smoke, I hate it. It's just obnoxious. You're so rude. He said he said to himself, I'm going to find a way to deal with this. He said to Winston Churchill, let me light your cigar for you. And so he actually lit the cigar for Winston Churchill and had a way of finding some way of something that bothered him, finding some softer way to it. I like that.
I thought, like, for me, an example, I don't drink wine or alcohol or anything, so I'm always telling my students or anyone else that that's the first thing I do. If I do go out for food with you, I don't drink. I emphasize that. And then eventually, like, there's this one occasion where I was out with my students. They took me to a restaurant and they're all drinking, so they got me a soda, and because they know I don't drink. And then one of the bigger bosses from the company came to me and says, hey Dominic, you need to drink with me. And I says, I'm sorry, I don't drink. And he said, you don't respect me if you don't drink. And so I'm like, if I drink with you, I lose my respect. I told him that. And then one of my students actually got up and says, it's okay, teacher, I will help you to drink for you. And so he drank for me and told the other boss, saying he is a man of integrity. So he says he shouldn't drink, he wouldn't drink. And so my students respected me by standing up for me. I feel like if I do something, if I tell people like this is what my beliefs are, and then eventually hopefully people understand and respect me, and things goes well that way. And so I really like that with my student, what they did for me. I was shocked that it happened. I never seen it happen before, and I feel
Right.
like there we go. I mean, doing good will come back to you. That's it.
And I think, when we hold to our own point of view, and you help that the older boss, who's to say to him, I am not being disrespectful. It is who I am, and I honor you, and I will show you respect in other ways. Is there another way that I can offer you respect?
And the
Because
next
I
day, he
want-
actually came to me and apologized. He was drunk, so he
Yes.
was saying, "I'm really sorry, I
right.
challenged you." And then so he
That-
gave me a
yeah.
whole box of fruits, and so I was like, "Yeah, okay." So
And that was because, and the good thing about that was, if you forgave him, you understood, okay, he's drunk, and so you didn't hold it against him and go, you're a butthole, and I don't want to have anything to do with you, right? So that's part of our forgiveness.
that's it. I think most people will actually fight back and stuff, but it takes a bit of a struggle sometimes to actually calm yourself down and then look at the situation and understand the other person's perspective.
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe so, and that is an important piece, because none of us have ever walked in somebody else's shoes, and so we make judgments about people, but we haven't ever been. I haven't been a single mother with children. I don't know how difficult that would be. And so it's easy for me to make judgments like, oh well, you just need to work harder or different things. Well, I think that's very arrogant. We need to have some sense of humility and try to walk in that person's shoes. Try to understand from their perspective. That is the beginning of peacemaking, and that's the beginning of building bridges.
Definitely. We definitely need to be more patient as well, and more understanding and better listener. Well, thank you, Jerry. We actually reached the time frame that we're set on. Thank you. It was great honor to have you on the show today. I've learned many things. I'm sure the viewers have as well. Do you have any concluding phrases or you want to say to the viewers out
I,
there?
I just, for your listeners, I want them to know that they are valued and they should value themselves. Don't let other people diminish you or define you. You are a child of God. You are a person that was created in the image of God, and it's good. And may you give yourself some love, let go of the things of your past, and live into the goodness and love of your future.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you to the viewers, and thank you to those who just followed me today. And thank you to those who sent a bit of a message of encouragement as well there. That's it for tonight. So if you guys want to get Jerry's book, please go to his website over here. And please subscribe and like this page, this video as well, and this page. So see you guys next time. Goodbye from Uncle Dominic. Thank you, Jerry.